This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trends in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini Today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Judith Mancini Today is sponsored by Basic Brands, Inc., providing the highest quality specialty products in the natural food industry. Visit basicbrandsinc.com and enter JMT15 for your 15% discount on your first order, including their best-selling vitamin E ointment, which helps restore moisture and elasticity to your skin. Hey, everybody, you should try some of that vitamin E ointment, because it's a new year and you want to be a new you in the new year and get some of that dryness off of there from the winter where we haven't had too much humidity, except back east where it's been raining and snowing. And oh my goodness, 37 people have died in the snowstorm. And one of the things is you do not want to be out driving in it. You do not want to try to keep warm in your car because people have frozen in their car. They run out of fuel. They're having a problem fixing e-cars because they won't take the charge in the super cold weather. And when they do, they use up the battery life even faster. So this is not a good thing. There's a few things that need to be ironed out before we all go to e-cars. So be happy you have an old car right now instead of a new car. And if I know Elon Musk, he's getting these Tesla people to work on that problem right now. I mean, it's a little hard in our country to test these kind of things. I know they have test chambers where they blow wind and temperatures and things like that. So I'm sure he's going to have that straightened out really soon. But it takes time, so I wouldn't be going out and selling your old cars that you can put regular fuel in. That is, if we don't run out of it all. So that is my sad story about back east and in the Midwest and the plains and the north, where this terrible, terrible winter storm has occurred. You know, when I lived in Lake Tahoe with my children, I raised my children in Lake Tahoe and Incline Village until they were about 8 and 10. And they learned to ski at a very young age. And so that was really one of the big pluses in there. But sometimes we would get snowstorms that would dump 4, 5, 6 feet of snow on us. And I can remember driving from Incline Village in Nevada on the North Shore, going down to Carson City or Reno and going over Mount Rose. Boy, they would plow that road for us so we could all get to our businesses or what have you. And sometimes on that Mount Rose highway, the snow would pile up to 30 or 40 feet. So it almost looked like you were driving through a tunnel. It was quite something. We often had snow just falling on the ground that was to the top of our 2-story home. That's a lot of snow. This storm apparently is a generational storm. But I do remember one time in 1968 when I was a stewardess. Stewardess, yes, not a flight attendant, a stewardess for United Airlines. My flying partner and I were flying. We were in a DC-6 and we had to land in Buffalo, and we sent the passengers on their merry way at the beginning of this snowstorm. But by the time they had disembarked and we had to go and just sit on the field. We couldn't go anywhere because the storm was so bad, the visibility was so bad, and it was so freezing cold, and we couldn't de-ice the airplane correctly. So we had to spend the night in the crew room in Buffalo. Those are my fond memories of Buffalo. Quite a time. Quite a time. Fun memories, though, of flying as a stewardess. That is, not of getting stuck in different places. So the title of my show today, if you had seen it on posting it on Facebook or anything, it was, Does December Equal Depression? And first I want to give you a disclaimer about that. I want you to be sure to see a medical professional or psychiatrist, psychologist, a therapist, or your primary care physician before you attempt to take any medication or figure out what you're doing and why you're depressed. I'm not an expert on this. I've had periods of depression, but that was always due to outside factors. It wasn't just in my head. It was when I was going through a divorce that I wanted and my partner didn't want. And how would I ever get out of that situation with my kids? And how would I support my kids? And different things like that, that were real reasons to be deeply depressed for a period of time. And I'm not one to pop pills because I have a very low tolerance for medications and alcohol and all those kind of things. So it's kept me being pretty straight all my life. I do drink. I love to have champagne, but I don't take pills. I do take something for my thyroid, and I'm trying to get off of that right now. And now I'm not criticizing people who have to take medications. Many medications save your lives, but I'm talking about depression. Get a lot of counseling before you get on those. Because if you'll notice on television, the pharmaceutical companies and the doctors who also get paid or get perks, meaning benefits, from prescribing some drugs, are all too quick to give you antidepressant medication. And if you'll notice, they now not only have the antidepressant medication, but they're pushing on the public a second pill to take if your first pill isn't doing you very well. Now, I have not studied this, so this is strictly my opinion. Why isn't that first pill working so well? Why do you have to take a second one to make the first one work? Doesn't make any sense to me. A lot of suicides occur because people get disgusted with taking the pill and they stop taking them. And they, for some reason, the pills aggravate some thoughts in your head, and one of them are known facts that they create suicidal thoughts. Now, you all know that my son took his own life in November of 2000 and 2020. And it's been a real struggle for all of us going through that. He apparently was depressed a lot of his time. One time when he was 16, one of his girlfriend's mothers committed suicide. I've been doing a lot of thinking why my son would do this, because by all outward appearances, he was happy. His business that he started himself was booming. He had made quite a name for his company and himself in the entertainment industry. He owned a prop and transportation company. He was not an actor, but he was doing quite well. He had lots of friends. I don't, to this day, know why he did this. I will tell you one thing, that drugs were not involved. And I thank God for that, because as a lot of young people do, he did do some experimenting when he was very young, which I was not aware of until much later in his life. But drugs were not involved in this. But why I'm telling you this is there are some warning signs out there. First of all, his girlfriend, whose mother took her life, she came to stay with us for a week or so after this happened. And the father was grateful for that because he had his hands full. And his girlfriend was very close to my son. And so she came and I knew her and she stayed with us for about a week. And then she went on with changing schools and all. When you're young, you lose track of some people. So the other thing is he did save one of his girlfriend's lives when he found that she had taken too many pills of some medication for him and rushed her to the hospital, got her there in time, and she's still here. Thank God for that. But I wonder how much that persuaded him that it was the right thing to do. You never know why somebody does this. You look at somebody like the actors and all that have taken their lives, and you think they have the top of their career and everybody loves them. You just never know. So enough of that. I just want you to be careful with medications and during the holiday seasons because people do get depressed. They walk around town and everybody says, Happy Thanksgiving. What are you thankful for this year? Well, they might not have anything to be thankful for. In their head, they might not. They might not be like me, who gets up in the morning and thanks God that I did wake up this morning and I have a wonderful husband and a wonderful daughter and I had a wonderful son, my grandchildren. Okay, so you all know what you're thankful for, but some people can't see through that. They can't see through the fact that they lost their job and they're trying to find another one of equal pay and they can't find one. Or they can't make the payments on their house because of this recession and they don't make that much money and they're living in a home that is not a multi-million-dollar home. They're living in an apartment or in a small house someplace in the Midwest or the West or the East where houses are much less expensive than they are here in California. Thank God for that. And they might not be able to make that payment, but they don't want to show it to everybody. So they keep it inside and they become more and more depressed. But you see this person and you shouldn't go up to them and say, unless you think they're in danger of taking their life, you shouldn't say to them, well, how's it going today? Are you still depressed? No, treat them normally. If you go out and you play golf with them or you play cards with them once a week, keep up that schedule, keep up the normalcy. That's what they want. They want something normal in their lives. If they want to speak to you, they will. They'll tell you, can I talk to you in confidence? They will ask you to talk to them. Only ask them if they need help if you are fearful for their life. But you can tell them you're always there. You always have an ear. You'll always be their friend. Just keep on doing things that are normal. And for you out there who are suffering from depression, I want to just read this to you. Let me find it. Oh, here we go. Now, this is from Steve Olsher. He is a podcaster and he sends an email out to people who follow him all the time. And he admitted this past week that he is depressed. And this has been a problem for him for many years throughout his life. And he ended his email by saying to other people who are suffering from depression, stay strong, one breath at a time, ride the wave. Tomorrow may not be necessarily any better, but let's find out. Now I'm going to ask Juan, my wonderful engineer, if he still has the suicide helpline. And if he does, he will scroll it along the bottom on our Cryon so that you can have it. And if you fear for somebody like that, please call for them or get them to call. There it is, 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifelines. So thank you, Juan. So let's move on from that. Let's get some happy things. Now, over Christmas, did you have a good time? Juan and I were talking about that. We're grateful for everything and being with family. We weren't with our family this year. We were very quiet, staying at home because my daughter's husband has the respiratory flu. And it went from her, she's a nurse. She went through her, and then both the little boys got it, and now the husband has it. So she's very cautious about my husband Lou and me not being around people with the flu. And so we had a little phone call and said we would have to celebrate later, but the kids were already playing with all of their Legos and things. So that was fun to talk to them all. And Juan was with all of his family and they were celebrating. And the one thing that we all had in common was we ate and we ate and we ate because we all love food and we have some traditions in our family. My family always had we had a big family gathering with lots of friends and all on Christmas. So we celebrate on Christmas Day on December 25th. And we always had so many people that we had a turkey and a prime rib with lots of side dishes and desserts and everything like that. And Juan's family celebrates, like many of my friends do, on Christmas Eve. And they had all their traditional foods of tamales and carne asada and all of that. So I think it's fun to share in other people's experiences and how they celebrate these different holidays and all. And I'm grateful that I've been able to celebrate in the different ways with my friends of many ethnicity groups. So that's where I learned about a lot of them. Funny that I've never spent Christmas in Hawaii, but I know people from Hawaii and they have different traditions too. One of them is saying Malakiliki Maka, Merry Christmas. So it's really fun. They do the big pig in the barbecue in the pit in the ground. So at least my friends did. That's what we did for our Christmas. And of course, Santa came and put toys in the socks for the kids, the stockings hung by the fireplace, which there isn't one. So you have to find new places because most houses don't have fireplaces anymore. At least not on the West Coast because we've practically outlawed them. You know, clean air takes away a lot of our fun things. So that's what I wanted to talk about Christmas. And now that that's over, I want to share with you some of the things that my podcast is supposed to be telling you to be healthy, wealthy, and wise. And what I want to talk about first is health. I mentioned a little bit that the respiratory flu knocked some of us down over the holidays, but I want to talk a little bit about going and having physical exams and what you should be concerned about. I mentioned that I think some medications are overprescribed or they're prescribed for no reasons. Now I'm talking about cholesterol drugs. We had a very bad experience. It was time for my husband's annual physical, and he is in great shape. He's 77. He'll be 78 this year. He had a single bypass a long time ago, nearly 20 years ago. And other than that, he's quite healthy. So he was lucky that his bypass was put in with pig vessels, which last for a long, long time. And there is really no, oh my goodness, it's been 20 years. You need to do something immediately. You're going to pass away. It's not like that when they do this particular procedure. So he eats healthy. He's Italian. And I mean a real Italian. He came over here to the United States with his family when he was 13. So he still likes a Mediterranean diet. So we eat a lot of fish, vegetables, things like that. And we watch our weight. Granted, we both gained weight over COVID because we kind of went off the Mediterranean diet in that we got into gelato. Well, that's Italian, but it's not exactly healthy to eat it every single night, but we did. So we gained a little weight. Now, we have this doctor who was his assigned primary physician at one of the universities out here that is a state university, but it's known for its medical hospitals. It's a teaching hospitals, teaching physicians, and it's some of the best in the country. So we went in. Now we've had this man for 3 years now, this male physician, who I would say is in his 40s. Every year he has given him a physical. He has never addressed certain things that you should be addressing for a man. One is prostate health. Well, we had to ask him for that. He didn't even put it on his blood test, the PSA numbers. So there were things, warning signals all through. Fortunately, neither one of us been really ill where we've needed a doctor other than for a physical exam. And so he hasn't been back to the doctor since his physical exam last year in 2021. So we walk in, and I am his wife, but I'm also his advocate because I was there when he had his heart surgery and all of this. And even though he was the CEO of a major supplement company in the United States here, he never paid any attention to any of this. So he still doesn't really, to tell you the truth. I kind of manage his health for him. He is a heavy smoker, but this is not unusual in foreign countries. In Mexico, Italy, France, China, Japan, many countries people smoke. And he started smoking at a young age, and no matter what I have done, I can't get him to stop smoking. But he does not smoke around me. And yes, I know secondhand smoke gets on your clothes and other things, but he's always out the door, outside when he smokes. And I don't allow him to smoke in the car with me either. So I hate it. But if he gave up smoking at this age, even when he was a little younger, when we got married 27 years ago, I think he would have had a heart attack or a stroke. This is his way of relaxing. I can't help it. I've tried over and over, and he's tried different things, and he's quit for 2 or 3 weeks, and he starts up again. Okay, I hate it. My kids don't smoke. So, and he is their stepfather, by the way, and like their natural father, they love him very much, and he loves them very much. And they've tried to get him to stop too. So why I'm telling you this is we went in for his physical a couple of weeks ago. And the first time, the physician's assistant comes in, or medical assistant comes in and takes your blood pressure and your weight and your height and the oxygen in your blood, all that kind of pre-stuff. And then she walks out. She was she seemed nervous. So she walks out and doesn't come back, and we sit there and we sit there and we sit there. And now it's going in like we have sat there for 30 minutes, which really irritates me when you go to the doctor and you have an appointment, because they schedule their appointments too close and try to cram too many people in. So what they schedule at this facility is 15 minutes for a physical. I'm here to tell you 15 minutes doesn't cut it. You're not supposed to ask any questions. If you have something bothering you, you're supposed to make a different appointment and come back to address that specific problem. Well, I consider getting a blood workup something that's normal for a yearly physical. Okay, so we're sitting there, and the doctor comes storming into the room, and he goes, "Well, you don't even have a robe on. What's the matter with you?" And my husband says, "Well, what was I supposed to do? Nobody gave me one. I don't have a gown. I don't have a robe. I don't have anything. I can't go through your drawers in this exam room to try to find one." And the guy starts pulling all these drawers open and going through them, and finds a gown and throws it at my husband. So, excuse me, I have something on my screen. So he goes out, storms out again. Then he comes storming back in and he says, all right, I hope you have a lot of life insurance because you're going to die. You have a cholesterol problem. You're not taking statins. You smoke. And I said, wait a second. He doesn't have a cholesterol problem and he took statins a few years ago and had a problem with it. And the doctor comes and points his finger right in my face, 6 inches from me, and starts screaming at me. Who are you and who are you to question me? And I said, well, I'm his wife and his advocate. And if you look at last year's, don't you tell me what to do. And he starts screaming. Now, mind you, this particular university medical center has had several lawsuits against them, but mostly for sexual problems with the university's co-eds. But there are signs all over the exam room that say, respect the patient, respect the patient. So he's in my face 6 inches away, and he was screaming at me, and I said, you can't just give him statins. You haven't even given him a blood workup. The man says, I'm going to call the doctor, says, I'm going to call security on you. I was furious. So I said to my husband, I'm leaving. So I walked out and tried to calm myself down. Now it is, our appointment was at 8:30. Now it is 9:20. All this time, and still nothing has been done. So I walk outside and I told the doctor before I left, I said, you're lucky I'm not calling security on you. So I went outside. I mean, I get pretty bossy, aggravated, nasty even, if people really push my button too much. And I'm not totally ignorant of the medical field because one of my careers was publishing a health magazine. So I waited outside. I took a little walk. I came back, and here comes my husband out. It's now 9:30. So we've been there an hour. And he said, are you okay? Are you okay? I said, yes, but the question is, did you finish your physical? And he said, well, I don't know. I said, well, where's your prescription for your blood work? He says, he didn't give me one. I said, well, what did he do? He said he listened to my heart for a minute and then told me to get dressed and get out of there. So, yeah, I'm upset. So now I will tell you that I keep copies of our physicals as they go along in a year. I keep the blood work and this and that so I can compare them, so we have a baseline to compare. Are we doing well? Are we doing badly? Do we need to work on cholesterol? Do we need to work on something else? Lou has a great ratio on his cholesterol, at least he did last year. He has low cholesterol, which then you're supposed to take the ratio, and his ratio is perfect. His heart is perfect. He has no murmurs, no AFib, nothing. His prostate PSA has always been okay. Everything has been fine, but the man never looked at it and wanted to give him statins. Now, if he had looked at the rest of his medical records, he would have seen that 5 years ago, 6 years ago, another doctor from another good group put him on statins because he wanted to get the kickback, I guess. I don't know. He started not walking right. Lou started not walking right. He had muscle weakness and everything else. Statins are not for everybody. You should try other things first. You should try to change your diet to lower your cholesterol. You should get more exercise. Okay, Lou didn't have any of that. He's always had perfect cholesterol and everything else. Basically, for a 77-year-old man, he's extremely healthy. He could So could I lose 10 pounds. Other than that, this doctor was going to put my husband on a medication he didn't need and could not even control his temper. And now when I look back on it, I think that the doctor himself may have a drug problem because I've never seen a doctor go off like that before. And believe me, we've seen a lot of different doctors in a lot of different cities, and we try to stick with the university ones because we were moving around for business reasons. And universities usually have what they're teaching, and they usually have very good physicians. Well, this physician is horrible, and I think he has a problem. And he wrote up the notes for the visit, never mentioned the fact that he never asked for the blood work, never asked if he had taken COVID vaccines, anything else. Basically, he didn't ask him anything. And I have not answered it. He did say, yeah, I was argumentative. Oh, by the way, he was asking me, what did I have anything better to do with my time than sit in the exam room? What? My time is valuable. Yeah, I happen to have things to do. He wrote down I had a podcast and dismissed it and dismissed me because I was a woman. And that's what he said. You're just a woman that has a lot of time on her hands and thinks she knows things. I have never been so disgusted in my life. So now we're looking for a new doctor. And I'm still debating in my head if I should report this physician to the AMA. Why I told you this story is you need to take an active part in controlling your own health. If you don't like your doctor, what good is it going to do you, whether it's male or female? I have a great primary physician, but I had to change when I moved away from Beverly Hills and moved to this area. And my dermatologist recommended this wonderful lady, and she is a fabulous doctor and is into integrative medicine. It's not on her field, but when I ask her certain things, like we don't take statins, we take red yeast rice. But did that doctor ask us that? We both have okay cholesterol. Actually, mine's a little high because stress. Stress can make your body do all sorts of different things. And I will say that my stress level went up when I lost my son. So always go back, and if your numbers don't look correct, have a redo after you get yourself in control of whatever you need to do. So that's my story, and that's why one reason I'm against drugs. Just being prescribed because they wanted to make some money. You know, this is an outrageous thing that's going on in our country, where the pharmaceutical companies are allowed to make this much money. They've raised the prices on everything, and I bet you're not aware that Pfizer now has another contract with the United States government to do another booster and 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 another booster. Okay? You know how much they've raised the price to the government? If the government's still going to pay for it, or if you're going to have to put it on your insurance, they raised it 400%. 400%. Now, what if you had a company and your product was selling well? It was demanded by the US government that you use your product, that the public use your product. It could be snow tires. It could be a dozen eggs that some egg farmer has paid off the government for, or the distributors to get your eggs into every grocery store. Wouldn't you be a little upset? A little upset? I would be furious. 400%. It's crazy. Why should the pharmaceutical companies be allowed to do this? And why, when somebody's working on cancer medication and ways to get either a vaccine or something to prevent the horrible amount of cancers that are out there and how people are getting them all the time, why haven't they been able to do that? Why is it that it's just people like Pfizer that are making a killing, literally a killing? And we'll discuss that next week on these shots, on these vaccines, or on the antidepressants. I don't understand, except it's nothing but graft, corruption, that they are allowed to do this. There needs to be something done, and I hope with this new Congress coming in that maybe they'll take a look at the pharmaceutical companies and the physicians and see if we can't help this and get rid of some of this corruption. All right. So it is time to go have your physical if you haven't. Did you, I talked to you about calendars and all, and I still use a paper calendar and I schedule everything. I put it on my calendar and what I need to do in the next year. So that's what I've been doing in December. I put things like upcoming, I need to schedule my physical at my birthday. Oh, that's the other thing. Lou's birthday is in September and he always gets that, but they couldn't take him. They were too busy. So it ended up in December. Ridiculous. And I tried to get it like 3 months ahead of time. So I make notations like that. I put my business appointments on it. I put everybody's birthday on it, my girlfriends, as well as my children and grandchildren and my husband. And so far, my mind is working okay. So I usually remember everybody's birthday. And I put other things on it, notes about a phone call somebody made me or a really lovely message they sent me on Facebook, or I put all sorts of things on it. It's almost like journaling. And I do know I owe some of you responses to your lovely messages to me over the holidays. And I'm sorry, I had my own little depression dealing with that. It's very difficult for families who've had these tragedies, whether they be from COVID or depression and suicide or whatever, to cope through the holidays. And I admit it. Excuse me, I had a problem, but I will be answering you, and I so appreciate everything. But I put a lot of other things on my calendar, and the reason I like a calendar is because I'm a paper person. I'm old. I love to read paper books. I only read on my iPad at night when my husband is sleeping because I won't take sleeping pills or anything, and so that's how I get my mind off of all of the things I have to do or my grieving or what have you. I read, and I read all sorts of things. I read everything from murder mysteries, and I don't read romance novels. I've never been into that kind of stuff, but I read a lot of biographies and autobiographies and self-help books that people come out with because that's kind of the business I'm in now. And that's how I relax. But when I'm into my calendar, I don't like using a computer calendar, although I know some of you do. And I know that they have improved them from when they first came out. The two biggest ones, I think, are, I suppose, Google and iOS or Apple Calendar, whatever. I'm not really sure because I don't use them. I know that those calendars that are on the internet will send you reminders if you have a meeting the next day, or they'll send them in the morning so that you'll see that at 2:00 you have a meeting or somebody's birthday, things like that. You can put short notes on all of them too. So if you like to do that, go ahead and do that. But as I told you, I love ink and paper. Even when I'm going to some lecture that I want and I want to take notes, I take a little notebook with me and I write them down. I'm not one to sit there with my phone and be typing in things on my phone. I just like the smell and the feel of the paper. And they have such great calendars now that they do have room in them to take copious notes and even pages that you could do your journaling on. You can schedule for a month, a year, a week, a day. I find them fabulous, and they have pretty covers on them. So I like to do that too. And I want to know, have you put on your calendar everything that you wanted to do in the coming year? I don't mean a resolution, because this is what I feel about resolutions. New Year's resolutions. I don't make New Year's resolutions. I make lists of things that I hope to do, that I want to do, that I think will improve me, will give me lots of fun with the grandkids, my husband and my daughter and her husband, lunches with girlfriends. That's what I like to do. And I don't make resolutions that I will get up every morning at 5 o'clock so that I can read more of the news or watch more of the news or exercise at 5 in the morning. That's for you younger people. I never did it, but some people like to do that. I think if you concentrate on what you want to accomplish during the day, you can do it without distractions. But I think you need to write it down someplace if you forget it. Some people say writing it down is a waste of time, that crossing it off your list is stupid. I don't think it is. I think it gives you a sense of accomplishing things. And most of us women have more than our careers to think about, because we also are the main person taking care of the children growing up or running the family life, setting up social engagements with friends, working for charities. Men tend to go outside of the home, and women too, but they get involved in their businesses, and many of them have high-powered jobs. They're attorneys, they're CEOs. You don't know. Everybody has a different thing. And then there are the people who are the truck drivers, and the men are gone, or the woman is gone for most of the week. And so the partner ends up having to do a lot of the things. So I think making a list and scratching it off is really great. But this is what I think about resolutions. And this is what I want you to do. So you might want to write it down. I'll go slowly. Every year you make a resolution to change yourself. Let me repeat that to you. Every year you make a resolution to change yourself. This year, make a resolution to be yourself. Yes, you heard me right. This year, make a resolution to be yourself. And that's by that wonderful woman, Anonymous. That's why I want you to make that list. That's why we're going to discuss it next week. We're going to discuss more news on this show as we go through in the new year, because I think our country is in the midst of a big, big change, and I want you all to be involved. I'm going to try to get some doctors in here with alternative ways to treat COVID and have ideas on vaccinations. Please don't get the idea that I am an anti-vaxxer. I am not. And I will repeat for those of you who don't know me well or have not heard me say this before on the show, I am not an anti-vaxxer. My mother contracted polio when I was 5 years old and my brother was 2. And for many years, I couldn't wait for Dr. Salk to get that vaccine out there so other people didn't have to suffer. She was a quadriplegic and in a respirator one on the outside of her, not an iron lung. She started out in one, but she advanced to a respirator for the rest of her life. And she passed away when I was pregnant with my son, some nearly 50 years ago. So I'm not an anti-vaxxer. My kids had measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox. They had all those things. And of course, I had the smallpox vaccine. It goes on, and they've come up with some new ones. I'm against things that are encouraging young teenagers to have sex because it's saying it is vaccinating them against the HPV virus. I'm not in favor of that. I am not in favor of giving these vaccines for COVID to everybody because there's not enough studies on them. And next week, I will tell you how many people have died from these vaccines and the heart problems. It's horrible. It's a tragedy. So I try to give both sides of the news. And if you don't want to hear both sides of the news, then you shouldn't be listening to Judith Mancini Today, because I am trying to give both sides of it with some data. And we will be doing that next week. And as always, listen to that disclaimer at the beginning of the show and get some professional advice if you need it. What I want to say to you today is it's a new start. Every day is a new start. Every day I get up being grateful that I'm still here on earth and I have my family and my friends and they hold me up. And I'm grateful for the beautiful sky and trees. Sometimes I post things on Facebook that are a little weird, like taking pictures of the park across the street from us and saying, "Good morning, sunshine." But that's how I feel. So I try to share it with you. It makes me happy to see God's creation. And I also want to encourage you to become more spiritual next year. Everybody needs a higher being to talk to. Maybe you don't have anybody around you. I talk to my husband a lot, but I talk to my girlfriends. We all have people we can talk to. At least I hope you do. So I want you to think about that. And I want you to study some of the things that Buddha said, some of the things that other religions say. There's a lot of good information out there and good ways to treat people. And it doesn't necessarily come from one person. There is a superior being. Think about that. And I'm going to leave you with these words. And I want you to think about these words. And if you're wondering where they came from, they were put on the back of a book that one of my dear friends, Pam, was endorsing because her wonderful husband, Frank Kamer, who is retired now, but was a doctor, and he wrote his autobiography. And she put on the back of it, she was very ill at the time and was having this big, wonderful book signing in her home for her husband. And she wrote these words on the back of it. And the words were from Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in the new year 2023. Bye-bye.